Alright, hello people. I know Spooktoberfest is over, but this is being filmed actually on Halloween. I know it won't be posted until early November, but I figured I'd better show you what I'm up to this spooky season, and I found the camera, so don't worry about that. This video will mostly be a review of scary stories to tell in the dark, which I had the pleasant opportunity of seeing about, I believe it was 2 days ago. And of course I have the original. I have the original book here. I remember I always considered these more high class than Goosebumps. As a kid, never read Goosebumps. I hate them. R.L. Stine is a hack. I read Edgar Allan Poe because he's a real writer. But I always considered these, somewhat better, somewhat more high quality, because, just the drawings are like, the drawings are the only reason that these things have any cultural impact. I also have Scary Stories 3, although I don't have Scary Stories 2, because I'm not crazy, and I don't need Scary Stories 2, but, it was about, I'm not sure when I first realized this, but I realized eventually that these stories aren't actually good. They're actually just rehashed urban legends, and they're all garbage. They're all written, at least, unlike Goosebumps, which is 1,000 different iterations of the same story, at least these are a little surprising, but for the most part, they're just the most awful stories, and the drawings are really good. Like, look at this. Like, they look kind of stupid. Now looking back on them, they're not that great. Like, but yeah, for a kid's book, pretty edgy. But what I'd suggest is take out the stories and just make it call it scary graphite drawings, because the drawings are what's scary. They're, oh wow, scary dress, yeah, scared, they're pretty good. They're pretty good drawings, I'll give it that, but, they're just kind of stupid. That one, ooh, gosh, which one? Yeah, this guy right here. I couldn't stand him, and I never even paid attention to the stories when I was reading these. I just looked at the drawings, and then I was like, but now I read the stories, and I realize, oh, they actually are just a bunch of garbage. Look, it even says they're all ripped off here in the articles and the bibliography. Yeah, real clever of you there, Alvin Schwartz. Oh, collected from folklore? Yeah, collected from folklore. You know why they're collected from folklore? Just because they're from folklore doesn't mean they're good. That's why original horror stories are so good. You think Pennywise is folklore? No, he's an original character. That's why he's so good. Now, about 2 days before... This is my pumpkin. Gosh. About 2 days prior to watching the stupid Scary Stories movie, I saw The Lighthouse, which was an absolutely great movie. I remember when The Vavitch came out, and I really wanted to see The Vavitch, but I didn't get to. And my gosh, The Lighthouse, just as good as The Vavitch. And I knew it would be, because in the trailer it stresses it's from the people who brought you The Vavitch. And I figure, very good historical horror movie. 1890s, it's a good seafaring jaunt with Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson. It's absolutely amazing. Set design, costume design, everything about it. That was an actually scary movie, and it was a lot of fun. And it was well made, the script was great. So then, went to the mainstream movies, and all they had on was Scary Stories. And I had actually seen the trailer for Scary Stories, and I thought, well, it must be, I didn't think it would be good, but the only other movie they had on was the new Will Smith movie, which I prefer to see after Halloween, so I was like, okay. It was, because the thing is, the same way that these stories are complete garbage, and they have to have, what's his name, Stephen Gamble, in here to make them look all spooky, to make them way cooler than they actually are. Look at that, cool visuals, because of course kids have the attention span of a baby. The movie has got to hire Guillermo del Toro in there, and he's got to add his excellent cinematography, which is really sad, because I saw his Edgar Allan Poe movie, Extraordinary Tales, and it was really good. I think The Shape of Water is overrated, sure, but he's a pretty good filmmaker. But it's the same. This garbage story just upped up with these freakish visuals. It's the same strategy, it's the same. But it was kind of fun. It's a fun Halloween movie. If you have, I don't know, a 6-year-old on your hands, you might want to go see this. It'll get a kick out of them. If you're not a 6-year-old, go see The Lighthouse, 1,000 times better. But my gosh, it was just really weird, totally inconsistent. The main problem is that it's just like Goosebumps. It's actually pretty much just a ripoff of Goosebumps. Ooh, spooky book! It comes alive. The stories comes alive. It's just like the garbage Goosebumps movie that came out, but it pretends to be more high class and more highbrow. This isn't Goosebumps. This is the other stupid kids book. But it's the same. And in the movie, the book is thick and it's full of notebook paper and blood, and it's got all the stories is written in blood, and it's magic, and but look at the actual book. Scholastic, ooh, spooky, and then it's paper thin, woohoo, and oh my gosh, ooh, frickin' quotes from the Bolton of the Center for Children's Books. I don't know, maybe they have a revamped edition, which is which is kind of like what they did for Harry Potter, or they made an actual book of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what the hell defictionalized products are doing these days, but the main point being that, the movie is weird. It's set in the 60s, right? And I don't know why, because these books were written in the 90s, right? And the movie could actually really be set anytime from the 50s, 30s, all the way to the 2000s. Why the 60s? It's just a very bizarre choice. The one song in the entire movie, Season of the Witch, is pretty cool, but Guillermo del Toro didn't make it. And also, why the 60s? Why not the 70s? Lots of good horror came out in the 70s, and this movie could even pay homage to those cool horror movies. You got Texas Chainsaw, you got Hills Have Eyes, you got Evil Dead came out in the 80s, you got Halloween, you got, all these beloved franchises. What came out in the 60s? Psycho, but this movie isn't like that. This movie is so absolutely bizarre. It'll scare the infants among you, and it's gonna just make the smart people among you think, what? Because you'll have a scene with Harold, the adorable. He's kind of like Slappy the dummy for these books. He's the cute little, the adorable little scarecrow fella. And then it'll have us see, on the radio, it'll show what the radio says, and it says
this year, vote against the Vietnam War. Don't let our children go off and die. And it's like, is a movie about a scarecrow, or is it about the Vietnam War? And then there's this character who's Mexican, and there's this racist cop, and you think the cop is racist because he's Mexican, and that makes sense, but no, he's actually just angry at him because he's a draft dodger, and because so long as he goes overseas to Vietnam, the cop will be okay. Gee, that's weird. That's weird. I just thought it was because he was Mexican. Also, there's this part with this. Nixon is on the TV. Like, if there's something on TV, it's gonna be There are subtle ways to indicate a time period than to have an old car and an old building, and oh my gosh, they're using microfilm. Oh my gosh, it's Nixon. There are subtler ways to do it. Even Inherent Vice, which I think is a really boring movie, is set in the 70s, and you can tell it's set in the 70s, but it doesn't mention Jimmy Carter or Gerald Ford every second. This movie is set in 1969, and it just will not let you forget that it's set in 1969 because it's only a gimmick, and they're using the Vietnam War, a real-life tragedy, to try and make their stupid scarecrow movie more spooky. The Mexican kid says, "My brother was shipped back to me in pieces from Vietnam. What if the ghost lady makes me go over to Vietnam?" It's like, if you go over to Vietnam, kid, the ghost lady doesn't make you do that. It's the U.S. government. You can make the most scary, really, you can make the most spooky. You can make a movie about the Vietnam War, so long as it's sensitive. You can make it scarier than Apocalypse Now if you want, but you don't put Vietnam in the same movie as a freaking scarecrow, and the spiders in the cheek that somehow don't breathe oxygen, because that's stupid. Oh my gosh, this and Vietnam in the same movie? No, that's really tacky and lame. I mean, for gosh sakes, even Quentin Tarantino's new horrible movie, absolutely horrible, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's set in 1969, and it's more subtle than this. There's one scene, I kid you not, where the main characters are in the drive-in movie, because we got to have because drive-in movies didn't exist in the 80s, you know. They're at the drive, and the main girl, she's like, "Oh, this is Night of the Living Dead. It's the top movie this year. Oh." And what I think would be better is just like, they could show the movie screen, and then anyone with half a brain could see it's Night of the Living Dead. And they can show the movie screen, because Night of the Living Dead is in the public domain. But they don't. For some reason, this is show don't tell. And Guillermo del Toro fails miserably at it, because you've got to explain everything to the 11-year-olds who are watching your Scary Stories stupid movie. What do I like about it? I mean, the cinematography is good. The shots are good for the most part. The part with the scarecrow is a lot of fun. The part with the spiders is absolutely stupid, because it ends up that whoever lay with spiders in her cheek goes to the nut house. It's like, from that, are they there? Are they not there? Are they real or what? Or you just get a little blood loss. I don't think that would kill you. You know. Then you've got just... Okay, so there's this one sequence where this, you know, there's this horrible story in here about this dream that this lay has, and then it comes real, and this fat lady is in the dream, and it's like, oh, it's foreshadowing, except it's pulled off really poorly, because this is for 10-year-olds who want to seem edgy, and like, oh, I can see the scary drawings, and this is how it is. These drawings are actually like abstract, so they actually look kind of scary as a drawing. Like, look at how here this fat lady who's like the villain, she kind of like disappears into nothing. That's scary, you know, because these are like drawings. They're a sketch. But the movie takes this drawing and actually makes a 3D version of this frickin' abomination, and it doesn't look scary. It looks like a cartoon, because that's what it is. It's taken from this awful... I mean, it's not awful. It's actually really good. Good job, Stephen Gamble. Your drawings are 100% better than the stories. But my point being, that would be like making a movie about Guernica and showing it like how Picasso drew it. You know, it's abstract art. If you adapt it to the big screen, just hire an actual old fat lady, give her some makeup, use practical effects, because this does not look scary in CGI. The same way that this fat lady is not scary, she's just fat. It's kind of offensive, but I mean, she's adorable, and they did do a really good job of turning the drawing into CGI. She doesn't even eat the kid. She just hugs him. Like, that's the level of horror we're at. Like, that's not scary, she just kind of melts him into her. Ah, you know. She's a Humpty Dumptress. Like, look at this. You think this would look good as CG? No. It's a cartoon. Okay, it's meant to look kind of funny, scary. Okay, that's what this movie doesn't get. With the old lady in particular, the Scarecrow isn't as bad. The Scarecrow's actually really fun. I mean, I can't hate Harold, even though his story sounds a lot like the story of some gay fellows who are having. Because they're like two cattle ranchers, they just live alone up in the hills, and then they hear Harold up on the roof, and then they leave, and then they forget their milking stools, so they've got to go back, and Harold kills one of them at the end, but it's like, yeah, of course he does. You think he doesn't? I mean, again, these are just not good stories, they're bad. And the movie, it even has the introduction of, ooh, stories can hurt and stories can heal and they are impactful. And it's like, yeah, good stories, but you're talking about scary story to tell in the dark. Those stories aren't impactful, they suck. In one part, it's explained that she writes the story about the pet that turns out to be the rat, and the Mexican kid's like, wow, neat, you're going to be the best writer ever, and it's like, what? No, she's not. That story is garbage. Who the hell would confuse a rat with a dog, and why does it even matter? It's just a rat. Just kill it, or let it go, or who cares if it's a rat? And what kind of idiot confuses a rat with a chihuahua, or whatever? Who puts their poodle in the microwave? It's all stupid. Yeah, folklore. Yeah, this is the really cool folklore. You heard right. Actually, it's not. It's the same old garbage. Ooh, the hook. I'm so scared of the hook. It's just not... And I mean, again, it's fine to have an anthology with a frame story, but I feel the frame story overpowers the anthology aspect a bit, because they can't tell, you know... I mean, it's not really an adaptation as much as it is just a disconnected string of of crazy incidents that don't make any sense. Kind of like how Goosebumps tries to fit all the Goosebumps monsters in there together, and it sucks.
Some boys and girls were at a party one night. There was a graveyard down the street and they were talking about how scary it was. I'll give you $1 if you stand on a grave, said the boy. A grave doesn't scare me, said the girl. I'll do it right now. The boy handed her his knife. Stick this knife in one of the graves, then we'll know you were there.
You know, because they can't just like follow her and watch her, and no one will remove the knife before morning like a security guard or something. The only way to know that she's there, apparently, is just to stick a knife in there. Plot device, and then it goes on to say, and I kid you not, this is just the worst.
When she didn't come back, the others went to look for her. They found her body sprawled across the grave. Without realizing it, she had plunged the knife through her skirt and had pinned it to the ground. It was only the knife that held her. She had died of fright.
You know, because in the Scary Story-o-verse, fright is an actual medical condition that, you know, you can die if you stab your stupid skirt. Look at this drawing. Ooh, epic. Ooh, for the crap story. Yeah, geez, thanks, Alvin Schwartz. You certainly have the right to copyright this utter like just gibberish. It's just not good. It's just why. There are better books of urban legends out there. I have one with 400 urban legends. They're pretty much the only 400 urban legends that exist. I have nothing wrong with folklore. It's a necessary component of our society, you know. But the problem with urban legends is that they've been spread around way too much, and now they're old. And anyone who believes them is really stupid because they're old hat. They've been spread to the point where they're boring. Someone needs to come up with some new urban legends, but I won't be the one to do that. The point being, these aren't good, and the movie was just awful. Especially with how oh no, my brother was shipped back a million pieces from the Nam War. And then 10 minutes later, the Scarecrow. It's a joke. Imagine if The Lighthouse constantly referenced that it was in the 1890s. Robert Pattinson would constantly be like, oh, what's this about Grover Cleveland? I hear. What about Benjamin Harrison? You hear about him? And what about San Juan Hill and this young upstart Teddy Roosevelt? That'd be stupid, because a good movie doesn't use a time period for exploitation. And you know why? You know why it's set in the 60s? This is why I think it is. Because it uses the Vietnam War, but that's not why it's set in the 60s. It's set in the 60s because Pennywise mania has gripped the nation. Everyone is into Pennywise, and since it is set in the 60s, they figure, oh, we'll set scary stories in the 60s also, and then everyone will think it has Pennywise in it. Except, you don't need to set a horror movie in the 60s, and unlike It, which is actually a very touching story about some kids in the 60s who come back in the 80s as adults and learn that the 60s weren't this idyllic, fun time, and there was trauma, and Pennywise could just be their imagination, or Pennywise could be real, who knows, but there's something that's physically murdering children, that's pretty scary, and that's, you know, that's a good story. That's a good story, and it has a reason to be set in the 60s, because Stephen King was alive in the 60s. Alvin Schwartz wasn't alive in the 60s, and why? And that's why it is. Because Pennywise, everyone's like, we gotta have it in the 60s, because that's the cool thing. You don't have to. But if you do, which you totally can, don't have one of the characters dress up as Spider-Man for Halloween because it's only 2 years after his introduction, or 3 or 4, and he's not going to be as popular as he is today. And most people probably won't even know what Spider-Man is. Do you get that? And also, you just happen to be watching Night of the Living... What? Is that how subtle they can be? My God, it's just the worst. And at the end, the draft dodger kid, he just ends up going. He's just like, okay. And so that was all for, like, what? I don't get it. I just don't get it. Yeah, so that's my review. Scary Stories the movie. Not that good. Even if they hire Guillermo del Toro, doesn't mean he can turn all these awful folklore story garbage into something that's actually worth reading. Yeah, sorry. And now I'd like to reveal something to you. This right here is a comic I'm currently doing. Frankenstein, Jekyll and Moreau, medical practitioners, and I'm doing it Sharpie on foam core. This one doesn't have stick figures as usual, and it is going to be hard to scan in. So, if you are interested in this comic, or actually tell you, I might, I don't know. These will probably be very valuable someday, these authentic foam cores. So yeah, this is a little Halloween comic I'm doing, Frankenstein, Jekyll and Moreau. It's a great crossover. So anywho, that's about it here on Halloween. Yeah, so that's about it. There's a pumpkin spook. And, yeah, so turkey season's coming up, some more reviews, some more comics, and you want a good Christmas gift, I suggest College Buddies, the value pack. Get it for whoever. They will enjoy it, I guarantee it. And gift wrapping is available. So, yeah, that's about it. And, I highly recommend The Lighthouse, and I highly don't recommend these utter wastes of your life, because they're just not good. They're just not good, except Harold. Oh gosh, but Harold is adorable. Not scary. He's adorable. Look at that little corpse face there. Oh yeah. So anywho, this is whatever. I give up. Just,
Jack-o'-lantern, it's Halloween. Apples hanging high. There's a big pumpkin pie in the sky. Children sing, children waltz. Who gives a darn if your face is false? Jump on your broom like a witch. Go and toss all your gloom in the ditch. Go out on the street for a trick or a treat. You're a cinch to strike it rich. Halloween, Halloween. All other holidays fall between. The night of All Hallows, so light up the tallow and make it a bright Halloween. it's Halloween. While you build a fire, someone lets the air out of your tire.